Hi, I'm Andrew, and this is a masterclass on editing promo videos. I'm a video producer and editor at Airviews and was responsible for creating this year's New York City Drone Film Festival promo videos. In this class, I'm going to go over the process of editing a promo video from start to finish. I'm going to structure it with 9 lessons, starting with the conceptualization and preparation that goes into making a promo, and then I'm going to end by actually going into Premiere Pro and breaking down the ticket sales promo that you might have seen for this year's festival.
This year's New York City Drone Film Festival is going to be a full-on, interactive digital experience. Learn from top drone experts, chat with the biggest influencers in the industry, and watch the best drone films in the world. Together virtually on October 24th and 25th. Attendees will have full access to master classes for 6 months after the event. Classes will include color grading, editing, storytelling, visual effects, and more. You won't want to miss this. Tickets on sale now.
So the first step when creating a promo video is to acknowledge what your purpose for creating the video is. Generally speaking, for promos, your main goal is going to always be to get as many viewers as possible and converting those viewers into customers. So for the purpose of this class, we're going to use the New York City Drone Film Festival's ticket promo as an example throughout. And obviously for the goal of that video, my goal was to get as many people to buy a ticket to the festival as possible. So once you've established your goal for the video, it's time to start writing a script or storyboard. So generally speaking, it's important to inform your audience of the information of your product or event in the most succinct way possible. I like to start by informing the audience of what they can expect from your product or event, and then go into how they can benefit if they make a purchase, and then end with a call to action so that they actually know where to go and find your product. So with this year's ticket promo, I started by telling the audience what this year's event is all about.
This year's New York City Drone Film Festival is going to be a full-on, interactive digital experience.
And then I went into some of the benefits that they might get if they buy a ticket.
Learn from top drone experts, chat with the biggest influencers in the industry, and watch the best drone films in the world.
And then ended with information on where they can purchase this year's event ticket.
You won't want to miss this. Tickets on sale now.
So the next step is footage and clip selection. In the case of my promo, I had it pretty easy because I just used clips from previous New York City Film Festival winners. I didn't actually have to go out and film or produce any of my own footage. Because this is kind of a unique situation, I'll go in a little bit into giving some tips on if you were to produce and have to film your own footage for the product. The main tip I like to give when it comes to the production and footage side of making a promo video is to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting with your client. This is good to kind of learn about what they'd like to get out of the video, what the main points of how they'd like to sell the product are. And the main point of this is kind of just to make sure you have every little detail written out on paper when you go into the editing room. Because if you kind of have to backtrack when editing, you're going to end up making a lot of drafts and re-edits, and that's just going to waste a lot of time for both you and your client. The second tip I have for when you're either filming or selecting footage from just a stock footage library is to use clips that have a lot of movement and action. This is because when you're promoting your video, you want to keep the viewer's attention throughout, and movement tends to do that pretty well. I'll go into this in lesson 6 a little bit more, but that's just a personal tip that I like to give. After I've selected the footage, before bringing anything into the editing software, I like to select my music next. This can be a really lengthy process sometimes, and it's really important to kind of set the whole mood of your edit, so you definitely want to spend some time on this and get it right to start. For the sake of my personal experience, this year's festival, I was actually, even though it's been going on for 5 years, this is the first year that I've been a part of it, so it was really important that I found music and a vibe that kind of matched the branding from previous year's events. This is something that might happen if you're working for a company that already has a well-established brand, and it's definitely important to kind of work with your client and make sure that you're matching their brand guidelines before you just jump right into something. On the other hand, if you're working with a client that's new to using video for their brand, it might be nice to show them a few samples of music that you've picked out and then make sure that they're on board with it. This again will just save you time when it comes to editing, so you don't have to backtrack and basically start over, because if you do the whole edit with a song they don't like, you're pretty much starting from scratch. So this is very important to nail, and definitely important to include the client on this decision, because you want to save time. When it comes to the type and style of music, that kind of differs again on the client's taste as well as your own. But generally speaking, you want to use something that's more upbeat, again, to engage the audience and kind of keep people viewing throughout the whole video so that they can get to that call to action that is generally towards the end of the video. So once you have your music and clips decided on, I like to take them into Premiere and just lay them out as like a very general rough cut timeline. And this is really helpful for the next lesson, which is going to be working with voiceover talent. Working with a voiceover professional is a great way to take your video to the next level, and it really helps for promo purposes to keep people engaged and deliver information in a very clear and succinct way. A website that I really like to use is Voices123. There's several out there, but that's just the one I have experience with, and it's great because they have a whole list of hundreds of voiceover talents, and you can kind of pick by style of video, and then you can actually listen to a bunch of samples from each of these voiceover professionals before you even have to reach out to them. So I was pretty lucky. I only had to listen to 2 before I found one that really seemed to fit the vibe of what we wanted. And so then I just shot him an email, got the pricing out of the way right away. It's generally pretty cheap. And then you just schedule a phone call and they hop on and they actually do the voiceover recording live while you're on the phone. And I found this super, super helpful because they basically will just run over and over again until it sounds perfect to the way that you wanted. So I'm going to cut to a quick segment of the session of the voiceover talent for this year's ticket sale promo and kind of just notice how I'm working with the timeline in the background as he's reading over it. And that's me just kind of judging his pace and cadence to make sure that it's going to fit what I've already kind of envisioned in Premiere Pro. This of course doesn't matter if it doesn't fit perfectly because you don't have your video finalized and it's just a rough cut, but this will kind of help you direct the voiceover professional and just make sure that cadence and pronunciation of everything is really dialed in.
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Hey Chad, not much, how you doing?
I'm alright, how's life treating you COVID style? So, alright, well listen, you want the same kind of like fuck you swagger with this?
Yeah, let's give that a go, and if you're willing to do a few options like last time, I'm open to. Yeah, I'm open to interpretation.
And then do you want me to do what we did last time in the world?
I would love one just like that, and then let's try one a little quicker, like the like that example I sent over.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna roll tape on number 1. I'll check back in a second. Here we go.
Okay.
This year's New York City Drone Film Festival is going to be a full-on interactive digital experience. Learn from top drone experts, chat with the biggest influencers in the industry, and watch the best drone films in the world. Together virtually on October 24th and 25th. Tickets on sale now.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, let's do it again.
Okay.
Okay. This year's New York City Film. Okay. This year's New York City Drone Film Festival.
Yeah. I mean, those first 2 are probably perfect, honestly.
Alright, let me do one more slower, just as an option.
Okay.
Alright, motherfucker. This year's New York City Drone Film Festival is going to be a full-on interactive digital experience.
That gives me a lot to work with.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it. I'll have this right to you in 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, be good. Bye.
Bye. All right, I think that went pretty well. The guy, like I said, is super quick with getting everything, all the different versions and options kind of laid out for us. So I couldn't be more excited with that. You never know, when I get it in email, it might not quite line up with the music. And the cool thing with him, he didn't mention on this phone call, but he's totally fine with me giving him a call back. We actually scheduled a full hour time slot, so he actually has that stenciled out in his calendar, and he's really nice and good with working and making sure that it's perfect for what we need. Yeah, find yourselves a good voiceover person that can really up the game for your promo video content. So you're most likely going to promote your video on social media, and that's exactly what we did for the ticket sales promo. So we used Facebook and Instagram, and for both of those platforms, the way the algorithm works is they don't count a view unless the viewer stays clicked on your video and watching for at least 3 seconds. And while for promo videos, the viewership and counting that view isn't super necessary to generate ticket sales, it is important for the algorithm to know that, okay, people are staying on, they're watching, and that lets it know that they're interested and they're going to push that video organically to more people. And this basically will save you money when it comes to spending ad dollars. So if your video is getting noticed and pushed out organically, you're gonna not have to spend as much. So I mentioned briefly putting ad dollars towards your promo, and because this isn't my specialty, I won't go too in depth, but I do want to mention that you can, on both Facebook and Instagram, you can actually decide who your video is pushed out to based on all kinds of different demographic information. So that's just something to keep in mind. You can choose things like a mile radius, what people's occupations are, what their likes are on Facebook. The list goes on and on, but that's just something that's good to know because it's really a good way to maximize the views and the audience that you push your video to. In addition to that, another great way to get free views on your video is just to tell your friends to give it a share. And if you know any people with a big following or any companies with a big following on social media, see if they're willing to give you a free share too. And likely if you are friends with these people, they're gonna have similar interests, and the people that they share it to are also gonna have similar interests. So they're gonna be organically sharing this to your target demographic without having to spend a single dollar. So there are a lot of different ways to promote your video, social media of course being the biggest right now, but you can look more into that. Like I said, I'm not a specialist on it, but those are just a few tips that I've learned over the years, and they seem to work pretty well. Okay, so with all that prep out of the way, we're actually gonna jump into Premiere Pro now and get into the edit. Okay, so now it's time to take what I just talked about and bring it into the editing process. I'm not gonna start from scratch on the edit since it's been completed for a while. Instead, I'm gonna show you my full finalized timeline and break it into about 10-second segments and show you how I did each part. All right, okay, so here is the full timeline of this ticket promo edit. And let's just jump right in. We'll play the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds or so.
This year's New York City Drone Film Festival is going to be a full-on interactive digital experience.
Okay, 5 seconds in, there's already 2 effects I'd like to break down, so let's go back to the start. As you can see, you might have noticed I started with having black bars. Whereas you go later into the edit and it fills the whole ratio of the screen. The reason I did that is because this text effect looked really cool, kind of like it's coming at you. And to add those black bars even adds a further level of like a 3D effect. So in order to add those black bars, you add a crop effect. And to do that, you go up to your effects panel, and if it's not there, look up top, go to Window, scroll down and click on Effects, and that should pop up. And then we need to type in crop, and to add any effect in Premiere, you click and you drag and bring it onto the clip that you want to affect. So since I already had that on there, we'll take it off, we'll hide that. We just want the top to be 12% and the bottom. And the reason for 12% is because that will give you the exact ratio of a Hollywood cinema widescreen ratio. Okay, moving forward. You can see it cuts to the second clip that also has a crop added to it. And the text is not anything that I created. We worked with a graphic designer for the film festival this year, and he gave us a bunch of these. So you'll see throughout the whole video this similar style. I'm not going to go into how to animate text because of this, but that's something you can probably find in a different masterclass or online elsewhere.
It's going to be a full-on interactive digital experience.
Okay, so this next part is this computer screen, and I'm gonna hide this top layer. I'll tell you why in a second. The starting shot for this was just the guy typing on blank computer screen. So let me go into this nested file. There's quite a few to get you the original clip. Okay, so it actually looked like this. With a green screen online is what I was able to get, and so then we added an effect called Ultra Key. You should be able to just type in Ultra, we'll drag that on. We'll hide the one I already did, and okay, so then you click this eyedropper tool, and you click on the green, and that gets rid of it. But let me undo that real quick. You notice the whole hue of the room kind of has a green reflection to it, the couch itself. But I want you to look at this top right corner, the shadow here when I click on the green screen. See how that kind of dims? What that's doing, it's actually technically taking out that shadow. If I were to put a clip behind this, it would show through as a transparent background. So to fix that, we're gonna go over to the matte cleanup drop down menu, and we're gonna just up the contrast. We'll bring it, that looks pretty good. 59, 60%. And now things look kind of normal. Everything's good, except the screen is still black. And so you then want to put what you're going to fill the screen with. So as we work backwards here, this is not what the graphic looked like when I got it from the designer. It looked like this. I added the effect corner pin. So you drag that on, then you click, and you should see these little 4 blue markers. They kind of look like targets. And then to get the visual of what the screen would look like in front of it, we'll drag it underneath. And then you take these 4 little markers and you actually drag them to the corners of the computer screen. And what the corner pin effect does is it changes the perspective. So now it looks as though this graphic is in the computer screen itself. And then I dragged and selected both these clips and I nested them together, which basically just makes them a solid group. And that brings us to here. And then now we do the zoom effect. So we will, let's move these out of the way for the time being. Here is the computer effects itself. And you can see it zooms, but it doesn't look that great. And it ends on this really blurry screen. So how we did the zoom, first off, was with keyframes. So we started with the position and the scale, and you want to click these to make them blue, and that adds these little markers here. And they start, of course, where the screen is at the time that you click the button, and then you scroll forward, and that's when I had to add the scale in. So if I were to scale out, you can see I basically just was zooming in. We brought that to 605%, and then you also mess with the position to line it up. I did the same thing with the corner pin because as it zooms, I wanted it to look like it fit with looking at a screen straight on versus it starting looking at a screen from a side perspective. So let's step back here. We'll put this back. If you notice, my final product does not look blurry. That's because I added another graphic on top, and this was a little bit of a trick. Move that out of the way. I just took the full quality graphic and put this blue shape behind it. And to do that, you can just hit this pen tool here, and let's say we want to create another small box, and we can change that color to, let's say, black, so it can show. And oh, oops, I actually changed the shape that was in the background. So let's delete that. And in order to change it back, we will hit the eyedropper tool and boom. So now it fills the screen. Bring it back here, and I did the same exact zoom. So we did the keyframe for the position and the scale so that it followed the motion. And I also had to add a mask because I just wanted it to cover the computer screen and, you know, not bleed out like it would. Let's zoom out here. Without the mask, this is what it would look like. It wouldn't look good. So let's go back. And basically what I did, there's only 4 frames that I had to key the mask. So let's step backwards. There we go. Now that matches. And we cut forward, and basically the mask just needs to be repositioned every time the next frame zooms in. And your final product looks like this. Okay, we'll step back. And here it looks like I just added another little bit of zoom to line everything up. Okay, so we lined everything up. We'll go back to what it looks like here. And that's basically the final product. And you can see I added that little mouse clicker on top. That too was just a green screen effect that I pulled off of YouTube. Actually, it looks like it already had the alpha channel keyed out in the background. So that was just a clear graphic that I put on top. And then, so we'll go back to this. I hid this top layer because, look at that. I added motion blur, and After Effects You can take it a step further, and the reason I exported it from After Effects is just because the computer can process it a little bit quicker. So I just threw that over top and replaced it. Basically everything underneath is irrelevant now. I can delete that, and I have this After Effects clip. And it looks nice when you play that full speed. But it's not necessary. I mean, you can play that back without the motion blur. It looks pretty similar. It's just a nice little touch if you have the time. And I add the click of the mouse. Okay, so there's that effect. Let's play the next few seconds.
Learn from top drone experts, chat with the biggest influencers in the industry, and watch the best drone films in the world.
Okay, so these are just more graphics that we were given from the graphic designer, so I'm not going to break those down. The idea here was just to flash a bunch of different creators to show that there's some big names, some big wigs at the festival this year, and we want to show people that. One little thing I did here, this clip of Vanover, we pulled from YouTube. It already had this effect on here, and Johnny's did not. So I matched the text. I just found something similar, and then added the same type of motion. So this is just a text layer. We could go and change that to whatever we want it to say, and then I keyframed the motion. So
influencers in the industry and what?
So the two matched. And that was just because I couldn't take this off of Vanover's, so I had to match it. Okay, we'll keep playing.
And watch the best drone films in the world together virtually on October 24th and 25th.
Hard to notice because this happens underneath the text, but I want to show you. I do quite a bit of speed ramping. That's kind of a style I like to use across all my edits. So let's just get rid of this quick, and notice how the waves come in quick and they slow down and then they go out quick.
On October 24th and 25th.
So how you can do that, we'll take this clip down here, and this tiny little box FX, you right click it, it'll give you this option for time remapping, and then you click speed. So because this one's already done, let's go to the clip next to it that doesn't have speed ramping on it. We'll click speed, zoom in a little bit, and it gives you this centered white bar versus before it had it up top. You hit the command key and hover over the line, and it gives you this arrow with a plus. You can click, and then you take this blue and you can drag that however far you want. And then depending on if you want the beginning of that clip or the end of the clip to speed ramp, that's where you will drag. Okay, so now the beginning of that clip is sped up.
Together virtually on a...
And then it slows down. One last thing you can do when speed ramping is drag. We'll make this a little bigger. You can take one of these things and drag it so that you basically have like a swooped speed up or slow down versus just like a straight ramp. It'll actually begin quick, slow down, and then speed up again. It just smooths everything out. Not necessary, but the more you know. Okay. Let's keep going. So you'll notice I'll actually keep it zoomed up like this. You'll notice I use speed ramps every time there's an increase or decrease with these white lines, so quite a few times throughout.
Together virtually on October 24th and 25th.
Alright, let's go back. All these shots were kind of just shot as is. That's how I found them from our previous year's winners. This shot was really cool. It was really slow approach, high up, looking down on the water, and then it actually goes underwater to a guy swimming with sharks in full scuba gear, and it shows he's flying the drone. He's got the drone controller, and so I wanted to show all of that in one short clip. So I sped the beginning up. Let's see by how much. Yeah, close to 500%, so that you could still see it was a drone perspective, but then also get the effect of seeing underwater. Just add the little sound effects of those beams there. Okay, we'll go back. This is a quick masking effect. Because of how quick it is, it's super easy. So notice the first clip that's playing is the parkour, that has to be on top of whichever clip you want to reveal. And then you add a simple mask. So let's delete the one we have. In order to add it, we click on this, click on opacity and click this pen tool up here. And then you have to drag forward until this beam ends. So this will be the start of the mask. And I like to just give it extra room because we're gonna have to drag that on screen. And of course that's not the right reveal. So we wanna go over in here and click inverted, and there we go. Now it's gonna reveal the clip underneath. And this is an important step. You wanna click the animation timer so that it actually adds a keyframe. Now let's go back one frame and start with it totally off screen. We will go forward one frame here, and this is kind of hard to keep track of, but we want to make sure that we are tracking that exact beam. And you see over here that added a third keyframe, and I would guess there's going to be only one or two more. We'll go forward, okay, we'll drag again, and then we want to keep an eye on the right side and make sure that this is staying off screen. Go forward again. Okay, almost off. We'll drag these over again just to be safe. And one last, okay, now it's all the way off and we can fully cover the screen with this shot that's underneath. So let's see how that looks. Super quick, but okay, one last tip. This is a really straight line. It kind of looks, you can tell what the effect was. So a way to make that look a little smoother, you take this mask feather over here and you can raise that. And notice the beam now is kind of blurring into the other shot below it. That just looks a lot smoother, and it kind of matches what it looked like to start. Cool, okay. We will continue watching.
Attendees will have full access to master classes for 6 months after the event. Classes will include color grading.
Okay, this is an effect that I am really proud of. So I like to make sure that the motion is fluid throughout the edit. And a great way to do that is with speed ramping, but you can also continue motion in the same direction throughout shots. So notice here, this guy's spinning these drone lampshades, super cool. Cuts right into a girl spinning, dancing. And then the third shot actually has two things spinning. It's still spinning to the left, same motion, but also the Ferris wheel is spinning. So it kind of ties all three shots together really well, but it's not obvious as to why that looks smooth. It just is when you're viewing it. So that's kind of a cool effect without having to add too many transitions, just planning out the shot selection and making sure that it flows well together.
Classes for 6 months after the event. Classes will include color grading, editing, storytelling, visual effects, and more. You won't.
All right, all these pop tags, if I could go back, I definitely have a few tips on these. These are all huge JPEG clips. See, it's taking my computer a while to render them here. Some advice: if you're using any type of image, make sure that they're actually scaled to a 1080 timeline. I think if I were to create a timeline with these pictures, they would be about 8K resolution, which takes up a ton of computer memory, especially when you have about 25 layers. And another little quick tip here is that we didn't, at the time of making this, we didn't have all of our classes picked yet. So there's only about 6 or so different pictures in here, and then they all just keep playing over and over again. But because it happened so fast, I gambled on the fact that no one would notice, and I think that turned out pretty well. And because those graphics are so massive, I actually ended up exporting this nested clip as is, and then bringing it back in as just a H.264 MP4 file, and that saves a ton of time for your computer, so it doesn't have to try to render those every time. And then of course I added the pop tags underneath, and that's just a cool sound effect you can find.
Editing, storytelling, visual effects, and more.
And the idea with making them pop exponentially faster as they went on was just to really like show the viewer that there are tons and tons of classes to choose from. Of course, we didn't expect them to be able to catch every little detail. That was not the point. It was more so to convey that there are a lot of different classes and things that you can learn at this festival. All right, so now we're pretty much at the end.
You won't want to miss this. Tickets on sale now.
So I decided to use the same top-down clip because it really works well for throwing text over top. I talked about earlier keeping the information in your promo is pretty concise and to the point. So we start with this tickets on sale now animation, and then it cuts to a version of the festival logo and just the bare bones information that people can comprehend and read within a few seconds. Buy tickets now, the name of the festival, and when the dates are. We didn't even bother showing them or telling them where they can buy the tickets because the main platform for distribution, like I talked about earlier, is Facebook and Instagram. So that gives you a great, huge description area to put things like links for buying tickets and any extra details that your audience might need to know. And then I just fade everything to black. Clear indication that the promo is over, and total runtime 43 seconds. That's something to note too. Instagram limits your videos to 1 minute. While you can use Instagram TV to post things longer, I wouldn't recommend going over. Keeping it between 15 to 45 seconds is pretty common for promo videos. Even a minute tends to get a little long. And you can see we packed a lot into that 45 seconds, so it doesn't even. It doesn't feel like it's that short. It feels longer than that.
This year's New York City Drone Film Festival.
Because of how much information we were able to put in there. So it's very informative, but you want to keep your viewer engaged. Okay, so now we can go back and I'm going to talk a little bit about sound design. This specific promo, I didn't do a ton of adding any sound effects, things like that, because it wasn't really necessary. With the voiceover, that was kind of the main focus of the video. So I didn't want to distract too much, but there are a few subtle touches. Let's play it for a bit here, and then I'll stop and point out. And you can obviously see anything extra. This track right here, the A2 track, is the voiceover. The track above it is the song. Anything below that is going to be an added sound effect.
Festival is going to be a full-on interactive digital experience. Learn from top drone experts. Chat with the biggest.
Okay, so right off the bat there, you can see. I added the keyboard typing.
Going to be a full-on interactive digital experience.
The click.
Learn from top drone.
There's a swoosh right there. And that's cool because it kind of accentuates both the drone flying through this ring, which is just absolutely insane that a drone can fit through there. But it also brings your attention to the text that's being brought on screen.
Learn from top drone experts. Chat with the biggest influencers in the industry. And watch the best drone films in the world.
And again, another whoosh. And the main point of sound design in general is to just accentuate what the viewer is seeing and kind of just bring attention to certain things. So if I didn't feel like there was, a reason to bring attention to something, I kind of left it out. I know I added right here, there's a big bass drop.
Films in the world, together virtually on October 24th.
And that made a really dramatic explosion effect, which is pretty cool.
On October 24th and 25th.
So nothing here really was necessary. I'll turn this up. If we took the music out, you could hear. Oh, my bad. I hit the wrong button there. The Star Wars. You have to add. That's classic sound. You had to add that. And it even had music behind it, but because the song I used is so loud, you can't even tell. Maybe this is a better way to do it. We'll keep the audio track quiet.
Attendees will have full access to master classes for 6 months after the event. Classes will include color grading, editing, storytelling, visual effects, and more. You won't want to miss this. Tickets on sale now.
And so the pop tags, and I mentioned those a bit ago. That you can find those on a lot of different areas online. I use Envato Elements. That's where I find a lot of my sound effects. It's a monthly subscription program. Artlist has sound effects, I believe. If not sound effects, they definitely have great music. And
visual effects and more. You won't want to miss this.
There's a lot of people on YouTube also that will give you a free audio sound effects pack. So you kind of just have to seek it out, see what you're looking for. But yeah, like I said, this edit doesn't have a
You won't want to miss this. Tickets on sale now.
ton of audio design at all. Let me maybe pull up one of our other promos.
You film.
Okay, so we'll play this one quick. You know, in fact, let's play the exported version. So here's what that promo looked like.
You fly. You film. You edit. And for what? A few likes on Instagram? Get your drone videos seen on the big screen. Get your work celebrated. Airviews and the New York City Drone Film Festival have joined forces to showcase and reward the best drone films in the world. The 6th annual New York City Drone Film Festival is coming July 25th and 26th. Show us what you've got.
Okay, so that was the very first promo that we put out for the Sears Festival. And you can see, just looking at the timeline, this one had a ton more sound effects added in. Maybe I should render this. Let's do that. I'll come back as soon as this is rendered. Okay, so that just finished rendering. So what I want to do with this, I'll play this promo without the song. So we'll start with
You fly. You film.
no music at all. We got just the sound effects. Let's meet this level. Okay. We'll go back here.
Show us what you've got.
Cool. So you can see, I mean, you could almost go through that whole video without a single silent spot. There were a few, and those spots that were silent were just because those sections match the beat of the song better than anything, so they didn't really need a sound effect. Like, for instance, or my bad, they match the voiceover, so
And reward the best drone films in the world.
yeah, we wanted the attention to be on the text and the voiceover there, so I didn't want to add any extra sound effects to distract. But for the most part, I mean, there's a ton of sound effects in here, and it's kind of what you want to look for. You want to be able to make it so that the video could pretty much stand alone with just sound effects and no music track. A lot of this was kind of just searching Google for, you know, let's find a good example here. Clearly there's a lot of booms and swooshes and whooshes, but there's also a lot of particular sounds. So here's an example. I mean, we start again with the typing. Let's just start from the beginning. We start with the drone. Of course, you need to have that buzz. Typing sound again. Classic pop tag. That's just a generic crowd cheering. That's not anything from this location. Swooshes. Bass drop. What else do we got? This thunder. I would guess without that sound effect, people might not even notice that there's a lightning strike in this shot because it goes so quick. So that's another, I mean, all of this is just to show that you can draw attention to certain things with sound design, and it's pretty important if you have the time to do it and to take the time to learn. It's a great aspect that you can add to any promotional video. It kind of just brings it to the next professional level. Okay, so the last lesson is on color grading, and it's not going to really be a lesson. It's more so me just bringing attention to how important color grading is. Because of the unique nature of these promos that we did for the festival, in that we used other people's finished products of videos, I didn't really have to color grade anything. We pretty much had them all finished and color graded as the creators wanted them, so I didn't add a whole ton of color correction to anything. But that being said, I'll at least give you one tip, and that is when you're adding some kind of color design to your clips, I recommend using an adjustment layer. So if you go down to this bottom left area, you click New Item, and scroll up and click Adjustment Layer. It'll create it for the sequence size that you have set. You hit OK, and then you drag that over. And what an adjustment layer is basically a clear video file where you can add an effect over top. So once you have that there, you can start by dragging it the length of your video or leave it. It doesn't really matter because you're gonna have to adjust per specific clip. We'll go up top and switch to the color editing panel, and then that brings up the Lumetri colors. So what I do is I go into creative. I have some saved LUTs. Let's just say we want to add Vulcan. You see how that changed the colors there? You can change the intensity of what this LUT does, and a LUT is basically like equivalent to an Instagram filter. It gives it a predetermined look, and you set that so okay, maybe 50% intensity looks good, and then you go up to basic correction, and I mean this clip's already color graded so it doesn't need anything, but just for the sake of showing, you can kind of adjust different parts. Maybe make it a darker look. Would bring the whites down, bring the blacks darker. Maybe add some red tinge in there. So you get the idea. And if you were to delete this adjustment layer, it deletes the color. So that's the cool part. You can apply it to just one specific part. And so let's say we want it to be over just this floating drone clip. We can cut that so that it's just over that. And now the adjustment layer here, let's say this clip, we'll start with this one since we already did the other drone clip. We'll say maybe this one needs a lot of red. We'll make it look terrible because why not? And we need to bring it really dark. So we made all those changes to that. You go over here and it didn't affect anything over here. So adjustment layers are a great way that you don't have to go in and actually find which clips had color grading on them or not. You can just do a quick look and say, okay, everything on this level is a color grading adjustment level. You don't have to go into each clip, go to creative, see, oh, nope, it has none. Other than that, I'm not gonna go into, I'm not a colorist. I'm not gonna give you like the best professional advice on it other than use LUTs if you want something quick, but don't bank on them being like an end all be all. You still have to be able to adjust the LUT and all the other lighting properties to make sure you get the look that you want. Alright, so that's about it for my masterclass. I hope you guys were able to learn a few things. If you had questions or wanted to dive deeper into any of the specific topics, there are more specific color design, editing theory, music theory. There's a lot more masterclasses that dive deep into each specific topic that we have at this year's festival. So I encourage you to go click around and actually check those out. But other than that, enjoy the films and the rest of the festival.